Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya Namaskaram. Today I'm going to be talking about verse 38 of Guru Vācaka Kōvai. The basic meaning of the verse, a lot is packed in a few words, so it needs some expansion, but I'll first read the basic meaning. That is, because of perishing like turmeric in front of the sunlight of jnana, the appearing world is not the creation of God, who is the sun. The vast picture, which is like the eye of a peacock feather, is a reflection in the dark mirror of the mind. Obviously, this needs some expansion to understand it fully. When he says, because of disappearing like turmeric in front of the sunlight of jnana, what that implies is because of that's the world's perishing in front of the sunlight of jnana, pure awareness, like the yellow stain of turmeric on a white cloth fading away in the sunlight. That is when he says manjal pol, like turmeric. It's referring to the fact that this is a very common phenomenon in India where the sunlight is very strong and people often wear white clothing. If you get, if the yellow stain of turmeric is on the white cloth, all you need to do is to hang the white cloth in the sun and the yellow will fade away. So I'll come back again to the meaning of the verse. Because of its perishing in front of the sunlight of jnana, like the yellow stain of turmeric on a white cloth fading away in the sunlight, the appearing world, that implies the world that shines as a mere appearance, is not the creation of God, who is the self-shining sun of jnana. I added there, which swallows everything in its infinitely clear light. That is referring to an idea expressed by Bhagavan in verse 27 of Aksharamulai, and also in verse 1 of Arunachala Patikam, in which he refers to Arunachala as the sun of bright rays that swallows everything. In verse 27 of Aksharamulai, he says, Sakalamum Virungum Kadiroli Ina. He addresses Arunachala as the sun of bright rays that swallows everything. And in the first verse of Arunachala Pancharatnam, he says, Arul Nirevana Amadak Kadale Virikadiral Yavam Virungum. He refers to Arunachala as Arul Nirevana, Amadak Kadale, the ocean of ambrosia, the nectar of immortality, which is the fullness of grace. Virikadiral Yavam Virungum, with its spreading rays that swallows everything. That is in front of the sun of light of jnana, that is Arunachala, or God, everything is swallowed. So the idea in this first sentence is, because this world is swallowed by that infinitely clear sun of jnana, which is God, it is wrong to say that the world is a creation of God. So if it's not a creation of God, then what is it? He answers that in the second sentence, which means the vast picture. That's referring to he's describing the vast picture refers to the entire world consisting of a multitude of phenomena, both physical and mental. He describes that as a picture, which is words in the verse are, which is like the eye on a peacock feather, that is, which is an illusory appearance, like the eye formed by the variated colors on a peacock feather. That actually there's no eye on the peacock feather, but it looks like an eye. Likewise, this world is a mere appearance. So the vast picture of this world is a reflection on the in the dark mirror of mind. What is it a reflection of? What is implied here is that it's a reflection of ego's Vishaya vasanas, ego's inclinations to seek happiness or satisfaction in phenomena. So long as we have both inclination to seek happiness in all these things, those inclinations are what are reflected seemingly outside as this world. And what is the mirror in which they're reflected? The dark mirror of Chittam. Chittam can mean the mind in general, but it also means specifically the will, which consists of vasanas. And he refers to it as a dark mirror for two reasons. Firstly, the vasanas cloud the mind and make the mind dark. That's one implication. But also the mirror of the mind is rooted in the fundamental darkness of self-ignorance, which is ego. So it's dark. The primary darkness is the darkness of self-ignorance, which is ego itself, because ego is the false awareness, I am this body. So that is the primary darkness. The secondary darkness is the darkness of desire, the vasanas that cloud the mind with so many desires and likes and dislikes and hopes and fears and all these cloud the mind. So it's referred to as the dark mirror of the mind. So the whole idea of the verse is because it perishes in front of the sunlight of jnana, just like the turmeric fades away in sunlight, this world appearance is not the creation of God, who is that self-shining sun of jnana in which it's all swallowed. What this world is just a picture, which is an illusory appearance like the variegated, like the eye formed by the variegated colors on a peacock feather. And it's a reflection of the vasanas in the dark mirror of Chittam, the will or mind. Muruganar has also given a paraphrase of this verse. The meaning of Muruganar's paraphrase, of course, in Tamil, but the meaning of it is because of this world, which is seen as that manomaya. Manomaya means that which consists only of mind. So because this world, which is seen as a mental formation, basically, it implies, perishing, becoming white like turmeric. When he said becoming white like turmeric, that implies becoming white like the yellow stain of turmeric in the sunlight. In front of the sunlight that is tatvajnana. Tatvajnana means knowledge or awareness of what alone is real. So because this world, like turmeric perishing in front of, fading in front of a turmeric stain fading in the sunlight, this world perishes in the front of the sunlight of tatvajnana, or the sunlight that is tatvajnana. He's very precise in his wording there. It is not the creation of God, who is Jnana Surya, the sun that is real knowledge or awareness. Matro here implies, on the contrary, that, meaning the world, which is a vast picture of many colors, like the eye of a peacock feather, is just a reflection seen in the dark mirror, which is the impure mind. When he says impure mind, asuddha manam, the impurities in the mind are the vasanas. So he doesn't explicitly refer to vasanas here, but he does implicitly when he says impure mind. So the dark mirror is the impure mind, which is clouded by these Vishaya vasanas. And Sadhu Om has given a slightly more elaborate paraphrase in Tamil. The meaning of his paraphrase, in front of sunlight, the yellow color of a turmeric stain becomes white. Just like that, since this world appearance of name and form is dispelled in the light of jnana, pure awareness, this world is not a creation of paramparul. Paramparul is a Tamil term. It means the same as paramavastu in Sanskrit. It's the ultimate substance, namely God or Brahman, who is the son of jnana. If it is us, then what is it? This shining world is just a false appearance, which is a formation of vasanas, like the beautiful color pictures that appear on a set of peacock feathers, and like the image of a Maya pen called Chittam, the will, which consists of vasanas seen reflected in a mirror called mind. Sadhu Om introduced the term here, Maya pen. It's not entirely clear what he implies by that, but we can interpret it in two ways. So what I've written in my note about this, what Sadhu Om meant here by depicting the will, Chittam, as Maya pen, can be interpreted in two distinct but complementary ways. This term is a compound of mayam, which is derived from the Sanskrit term maya and is generally used to mean illusion, an illusion, false appearance, or deception, and pen, which means a woman or girl. Maya pen usually means either a woman dressed in disguise or a man dressed as a woman. So in this context, it could imply that Chittam is a disguise or false identity assumed by ego. Another possible implication derives from the term Nili Kanadi, or dark mirror in the verse, because Nili means not only dark, but also Durga or Parvati, who are two forms of Shakti, the Divine Mother, and also a female demon or wicked woman. So since Maya can be considered either a divine power or a demonic power, depending on how it is viewed, and since power, Shakti, is depicted as feminine, in this context, Maya pen could imply that Chittam is a power of Maya. That is, Maya consists of two basic powers, our Varana, which is the power of covering, veiling, concealing, or obscuring, and Vikshepa, which is the power of scattering, dispersing, discharging, or projecting. As ego, we're aware of ourselves as I am this body, which is our Varana, because that is this false awareness, I am this body, that is our Varana, because it covers and conceals what we actually are. And having concealed what we actually are by being aware of ourselves as I am this body, we project our vasanas, which are what constitute our will or causal body. Our will means chittam, or causal body, karana, sarira, and which are the seeds that sprout as likes, dislikes, desires, attachments, hopes, fears, and so on. We project those vasanas as all the phenomena, vishayas, that constitute both the physical and mental worlds. So Vikshepa functions through the medium of our chittam and the vasanas of which it consists. Since the entire world is just a projection of our vasanas, and since it appears only in the mind, it is said here to be a reflection of those vasanas in the mirror of the mind. So Bhagavan often spoke in a very compact way, and Murugan had a way of expressing in verse form the very compact ideas that Bhagavan expressed orally. So this verse is a very good example of how in the few words of a verse, a lot of meaning is compacted in here. A lot of meaning and a lot of implication. So does anyone have any questions about this verse?
Oh, just one point to mention, Michael.
Yes.
I heard that to get turmeric off white cloth, you have to add some lime juice as well.
No, I don't think so. In my experience,
Oh, really?
but yeah, it just if you put it in the sunlight, it fades.
All right. Okay, that's what I
But
was
that
told.
is if you put lime juice on turmeric, it turns red.
Ah, yeah, true,
But
true.
the kumkum is made by putting lime juice on turmeric powder, and they add alum to it to fix it. But the basic ingredient, I mean, the alum is a fixing agent, but the basic ingredient of turmeric, sorry, of kumkum, is the yellow powder of turmeric plus the lime. So I
Okay,
think if you were to put lime juice on a yellow stain on a cloth, it
go
would turn
red.
red and may not fade so
I thought,
quickly.
yeah, okay. But I think it should be wet, should it? Or it can be dry.
Um, I don't know. I mean, usually people wash it and then put it in the sun and it will then fade.
Yeah,
But I
'cause
think even if it's dry, it will probably fade. Maybe fades quicker if it's wet. I'm not sure.
yeah, turmeric is a big problem when it comes to white cloth.
Yeah, well, it's much less of a problem in
Yeah,
India when it's because of the strong sunlight.
it is some.
In the
Yeah,
sunlight we get here, if we get it, it
yeah.
probably wouldn't fade so quickly, if at all.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So any questions on Michael's talk, or they can put it in the chat to me if they want, or just come. Yeah.
Bruce has got his hand. Bruce has got his hand up.
Shall I go ahead?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, please, Bruce.
I was just going to relate the verse to the paragraph 16 in Nanyar, the nacre in the shell. It's kind of a very similar analogy, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean, relating it along these lines.
yeah, I think what you're referring to is the seventh paragraph, where Bhagavan says, what actually exists is only Atma-swarupa. The world, soul, and God are are kalpana, they're fabrications, mental fabrications in it, like the silver in seen in a shell. Um,
Right.
It's
I thought
there
that
is
was verse
slightly different
16.
because but there is just what Bowen is emphasizing there is the world, soul, and God. And here, God
Hmm.
means so long as we take ourselves to be a person and consequently see a world, God seems to be a separate third entity. So God, in that sense, God as a separate God, they're all just appearances. And as he says there, they appear together and they disappear together. But what they all ultimately are is only Swarupa, because Swarupa alone, Swarupa means what we actually are. That alone is what actually exists. What he's emphasizing here by this analogy is that because this world appears only in the view of the mind, when the mind is destroyed, the world is also destroyed. That's why, that's why I referred to what he says in verse 27 of Aksharamlai and verse 1 of Arunachala Pancharatnam, where he refers to Arunachala as the sun of bright rays that swallows everything. In
Right.
this, when the sunlight of jnana arises, everything is swallowed by that. So in other words, when mind is destroyed, the ego is destroyed, all this world which appears only in the view of ego is, is dissolved along with it. So it's not unconnected with that, but it's not saying exactly the same thing.
Yeah,
And
it's
it's
slightly
because it's all
different.
just a false appearance that appears only in the view of mind. But when mind is destroyed, it's all swallowed along with it.
Right, but it's still even in the first analogy, it's all a mind projection.
It's all a mind projection, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
We have a question on your talk, Michael, here.
Yes.
Can Michael elaborate more on why the analogy of the eye of the peacock feather is used?
Yeah, it's to emphasize that it's a false appearance. If
It
that is, um,
it's also that's what I was going to say that it's iridescent like nacre.
yeah.
That's why I was making the analogy. The
Yeah.
peak. Yeah,
As far as the appearance is concerned, yes,
yeah.
absolutely. Um, that is what actually exists is only one thing, namely Swarupa, what we actually are. That alone is what actually exists. But when we rise as ego, we see ourselves as all this multiplicity. So just like the colors on the peacock feather produce so many beautiful forms and the appearance of an eye, the the vasanas uh, uh, produce all uh, this uh, this vast array of multiplicity, so many different types of phenomena, physical phenomena, mental phenomena, all this infinite variety, or well, seemingly infinite, obviously not absolutely infinite variety of phenomena. It's all nothing but a projection of the vasanas. That's the main idea. Though the verse doesn't specifically mention vasanas, the fact that he says the dark mirror of Chittam, Chittam in the sense of will, consists of vasanas. It is what is otherwise called the Karana Sarira, causal body. The causal body is called the causal body because those vasanas are the seeds that are projected as all this. In verse 6 of Arunachala Ashtakam, Bhagavan talks about the vasanas. He compares the vasanas like the images on a film reel. He often used to, I mean, also when explaining these things, he often used to use this analogy of a film reel. So the vasanas are like the images on the film reel, and they are projected by the light of mind. They're reflected or projected through the five senses as all this, a world. The, the, all the pictures we see on a cinema screen, they're just a false appearance. There aren't horses and chariots and battles or love affairs or anything actually happening. It's all just an appearance. It looks the whole drama that people go to a cinema to watch. It's all just an appearance. None of those things are real. Like that, this whole world is just an appearance. Someone has asked a question. There's
There's
Michael
another.
Fenton. I didn't catch it fully.
Rati wants to ask a question about the verse.
Okay.
Rati?
Michael, in the verse he says Maya pen, that is, I think, Maya
Maya
pen.
pen is not actually in the verse. That's
Oh,
a
I
term
see.
used by Sadhu Om in his paraphrase.
Oh, okay, I see. Well, again, the question, you brought it up in a previous verse of Guru Vācaka Kōvai as well. Maya is that she who is not.
Yes.
So that sense of a woman who is not, and I
Yeah.
know Shankara refers to, women as a gender and caste and creed and race and everything as non-existent, and gender is not. In the sense, woman
Yes.
is really not. Woman is a myth. And here, so, I mean, here, I guess Sadhu Om refers to Maya Pen as a woman, a man in disguise. So could
Yeah.
it be said that that this whole concept of gender anyway is a made-up concept? It's not really. I mean, in the sense of even Shiva is androgynous, and then there's only the androgynous figure of Shiva as a male, female, as a man,
Yeah.
really. So is that what it is? I mean,
Yes.
say,
Bhagavan in Arunachapattikam, he verse I think 4, I think, of Arunachapattikam. I'm not, yeah, verse 4 of Arunacha Navamanimalai, sorry. He ends by saying, Pennan Ali Uru, Nanna Oli Uru, Anna Annal Enaha Nannaye. There he says, Pen means female, An means male, Ali means those who are neither wholly male or wholly female. So it refers to transgender people, or anyone who is not typically male or typically female is Ali. Ali means that which is not, meaning what is neither male, neither wholly male nor wholly female. So these are, in Indian culture, these are referred to as the 3 genders. Rather than 2 genders, they talk of 3 genders. In Sanskrit, they say there's a term, Tritiya Prakriti, the 3rd gender, that refers to those who are not wholly male or wholly female, whether physically or mentally. I mean, anyone who doesn't fit into the typical male or female is called Ali. So here Bhagavan is saying, Arunacha is the Lord who is the form of light that is untouched by all these differences. These differences of male, female, and neither. It's all these pertain to the body, or to the body and to the mind. But Arunachala is that light of awareness that is shining in all. That is, whether we happen to have a male body or a female body, whether we identify it as male or female or neither, it's all these, that everyone, both those who have a female body are aware, I am this woman. People have a male body, I am this man. People who are transgender, I am neither man nor woman. All these, what is common in all of these is the awareness I am. And this is common not only for the different genders, also for the different species. Just like we are aware of ourselves as I am this body, the jiva that is in a cow's body is aware of itself as I am this body, or in an elephant's body, or in a dog's body, or in any creature. It's the same awareness I am. So that is what Bhagavan refers to. That he says Arunacha is that light of awareness that is shining in all these different forms. So it's untouched by the different forms, because it is the form of light. Obviously, light means consciousness, awareness, and that has no form, but it's metaphorically referred to as the form of light, the Chit Swarupa. In the very next verse, he refers to Arunacha Chit Swarupam, Chit Swarupan, the embodiment of that awareness. So that is beyond all these differences. So these differences appear only when we rise as ego, take a body as I. We therefore, once we take a body as I, we're aware of ourselves as either I'm male, I'm female, or I'm neither male nor female, or I'm both male and female, whatever it is. All these differences are only there for ego, for the underlying reality, the satchit, the being awareness. It's beyond all these differences.
Mhm. Yes, and also in this verse he refers to the Nili Kannadi, the dark mirror. Is that the Durga? Why is woman referred to as both Durga as the demon as well as Divine Mother? Why the reference to the Durga aspect in
That word
woman?
can be used in 2 different senses.
Mhm.
Uh, it's like Maya. Maya is what causes all this trouble. So we can consider Maya as demonic. But it is also said that Maya is the handmaiden of the Lord, or the consort of the Lord. Krishna says in Gita, Mama Maya. And likewise, there's a song, one of Sadhu Om's songs. He said, why should I worry about Maya? Maya is, it's when it's in the hands of my Lord, he will only use the Maya for what is good. Sri Ramakrishna talked of Maya in two forms, Vidya Maya and Avidya Maya. Vidya Maya is more or less, we can say it's grace. Avidya Maya is the ignorance. So there is one divine power. According to our preference, we can either experience it as all this Maya, all this multiplicity, or if we are ready to surrender ourselves completely, we can experience it as it actually is, which is the light of grace, which is, as Bhagavan makes clear, is nothing but the light of Satchit, that is ever shining in our heart as our own being, I am. So it's the same power. Grace and Maya are not two different powers. They're the same power used in two different ways.
Yes.
So that is why it is said that in Shaivism, they don't talk about just three divine functions. They talk about five. The usual three of creation, sustenance, and dissolution. But then they talk of two more. And Bhagavan often used to refer to this, the Tirodhana or Tirobhava, the veiling power, and Anugraha, the power of grace. The veiling power is necessary so long as we want to experience this creation, that is creation, sustenance, and dissolution happens only under the veil of self-ignorance. If we knew ourselves as we actually are, if we knew God as he actually is, which means one and the same because God is what we actually are, we would no longer experience this appearance of creation, sustenance, and dissolution. But so long as we have a taste for experiencing all this multiplicity, God functions in the form of that veiling that enables the creation, sustenance, and dissolution to take place. But when by his grace, when we get the clarity to understand that there's no happiness to be achieved in any of these things, we then seek liberation. And then the same power that was previously veiling us then functions as grace to remove the veil. So grace and Maya are the same power. We can consider Maya as demonic. We can also consider it as divine. Because once we are on the path of bhakti, the spiritual path, Maya works to free us from its own grip.
Yes. In this verse, he also refers to Avarna, that's Maya, as well as Vikshepa.
He
And I
doesn't
think you
specifically
had
refer to it.
Vikshepa.
We can infer this from it.
Yeah, inferred. I mean, you
Yeah,
inferred that
yeah.
Vikshepa is the distortion through vasanas, right? The
Yeah,
vasanas
Vikshepa means scattering. So it's what makes the
scattering,
one appear as
projection.
many.
Yes, projection.
Yeah. But that can happen only if the veiling is there.
Yes.
So long as we know ourselves as we actually are, we can't know ourselves as anything else. So we have to have that veiling of self-ignorance, which is nothing but ego, the false awareness, I am this body. Then only we can see all of this. That's why in verse 4 of Ulunaptu, Bhagavan says, Uruvam Tanayin, Ulhu Paramatran. If oneself is a form, the world and God will be likewise. If oneself is not a form, who can see their forms and how? So this appearance of all these forms, the forms of the world and the forms of God, it's possible only so long as we take ourselves as a form. But when we know ourselves as the the formless Sat Chit, none of these forms are then all swallowed, as he says here, like the turmeric in front of the sunlight.
Mhm. Yes, yes. Thank you, Michael. Thank
Right,
you.
right.
Can I say something?
Hang on,
Yes.
is that Vasanta? You put your hand
Yes,
up.
yes, thank you.
Yours
Coming
was
back
the
to what
question.
Rati was saying about Maya pen,
Mm.
could it be that he was referring to this universe of names and forms is like the seductress, and we should not be enchanted or captivated by what we see?
We can also take it in that sense. We can also take it in that sense.
So that's why
Yeah,
woman, Rati, not
yeah.
man.
Well, yes. Women are often unfairly maligned because men are as
Unfairly,
guilty as
yes,
women, but
yes.
yeah. But yeah, we can take it in that way also, yes.
Thank you.
That is, Sadhu Om just sometimes just drops a word there and it leaves it up to us to understand what that is implying. So there are often different implications that we can draw from the same word.
But my doubt about the eye of the peacock feather, I'm still not clear why that simile or analogy was used.
That is for Murugan explains it very, how does Murugan explain it? He explains it as, he Murugan explains is mine mile irahin, that is of the peacock
His
feather,
feather. Yes.
pan pondra, I mean he puts in brackets,
Yeah.
pal vanna, peruchitram, the vast picture of many colors. So like we see all the variety in this world. When he says many colors, vanna means color, but it
Yes.
also means species, classes. So we see so many different types of phenomena. We see physical phenomena, we see mental phenomena. There's so many, there are phenomena of all kinds, so many different kinds of phenomena. That is like the different colors we see in a peacock feather. And how
Okay. Yes.
those different colors form
Yes.
pictures.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
all these multitude of phenomena
Hmm.
that are appearing, we form it as a picture. Yes, there's a world out there. Yes, and we classify everything. We put it into different classes, like Vanna. Vanna is a Tamil form of the Sanskrit Varna. Varna means color, but it's also used to mean class and like
Yes.
caste. It
Yes.
also
Yes.
means that.
Hmm.
It's not. It can mean color literally, and it can mean color metaphorically.
Yeah. So actually, according to this verse, we are seeing this universe of names and forms because of our vasanas. So
Our
all of
vasana.
us who on this planet at this point of time are having the same vasanas. Is that correct? Or how is
Well,
that possible?
we, when Bhagavan says all this is a projection of our vasanas, he's talking from the perspective of Drishti Shrishti
Srishti.
Vada. That is, all this is a dream. So in a dream, there are many people, but there's only one dreamer. The
Yeah.
dreamer uh, experiences itself as if it were a person in the dream, but the dreamer is not the dream person. The dreamer is the one who experiences itself as I am this person. I'm seeing all this multiplicity. So these are who is the one who sees all this? It's the vasanas of that one who sees all this, namely ego.
Yeah, not only that, I was just thinking only certain sections of people are seeing certain names and forms at any one time. Like those who are going through the wars in
Yes.
in Palestine or
Yeah.
Iran or whatever. We are not going through that. So we don't have the vasanas for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So we are not experiencing those
Well, we may have those vasanas. Those have that.
difficulties. We do when we watch on television.
That is, there's another word Bhagavan uses in verse 6 of Arunachya Ashtakam. He uses a word, I think it is, which means prarabdha. He says, under the whirl of prarabdha. So what he implies by that is, yes, all this world is a projection of our vasanas, but we don't choose what vasanas we project. It is prarabdha that determines what vasanas are projected as this world. So
Even the reaction to the vasana, to the the reaction to what is being seen, each one is seeing it differently.
exactly.
Yes.
Like some people, you can see people who are very, very poor can be very cheerful. If I don't know, but you see it so much now. But in the old days in India, if you go to villages,
Yes.
they were people living in complete, I mean, basic survival.
Very
But
happy.
if you see the children, they'll be full of bright smiles and so
Yes,
friendly
yes.
and cheerful and everything.
Yes. Yes.
Whereas you see people who have everything, like in the modern world, particularly in the more affluent world, children have all sorts of things. They've got mobile phones, they've got social media, all these things. But are they happy? You don't
Yes,
see
their
that.
same
You don't.
grandchildren. Their same grandchildren are not happy.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not just a matter of what we're given to experience, how we take it.
Yes, and as I said, even the vasanas that we experience, when we look at our news channels and see what wars is going on,
Yeah.
I have noticed each person's view of what is seen is also different, and especially if they identify with a
Yeah.
certain community,
Yes.
they see it differently.
Yes.
Who
Who
is
is right?
suffering?
Who
Who
is
is
right and who is wrong? Everyone
who
has
is
their own
right? Who is
ideas.
wrong? And
Yeah.
yes,
Exactly.
yes. Thank you.
Right.
Yes, thank you, Michael.
Right.
Michael Sadashiva has his hand up still.
Yes.
Sadashiva?
Yes. Michael, earlier you mentioned that Maya exists to release us from her grips.
Yes.
And I thought that was so beautiful. It to me, it seems like that the process you have to mature into the grace. So Maya would exist for that maturing process to happen.
Yes. Even whatever we are given to experience is given by Bhagavan's grace. So our whole prarabdha, Bhagavan sometimes used to say, whether you call it prarabdha or call it grace, it's the same thing. So it's all being given to us for our own spiritual benefit. But how we take it, that's up to us. So for those who are very attached to this bodily existence and to seeking happiness in all these things, Maya is there to keep them bound. But when we begin to long to be free of all this, the same Maya is working to free us from it. So it's a matter of how we take it. We can take Maya as a demonic force, something that is binding us, or we can take it. It's all the divine play of God in order to free us from our ignorance. So a lot of it depends on how we take it.
Yes, but the choice to take it one way or the other would not even exist if it wasn't for the divine power in the first place.
Yes. That is, we are given that freedom to take it in this way or that way. But how we take it is also molded by that power. That is, grace is working in the heart of each one of us to slowly, slowly purify our mind. And as our mind is purified, our view of things change. When the mind is very impure, we're very attached, we have very strong desires, we're very selfish, uncaring about others and everything. And so we experience the same Maya in a particular way. As by the power of grace, as our mind is gradually purified over the course of so many lives, we begin to view the same thing in a different way.
Yeah, that's very beautiful. And it's
One problem that is a big issue in Western theology, but is not really much of an issue in Indian theology, is what they call the problem of evil. If God is all loving and all powerful and all knowing, how come there's evil in this world? How can an all knowing, all powerful God create all this? That is from a certain point, that is at a certain stage, people will view things in this way. But as the mind is purified more and more, we come to look upon everything. It's all the work of God's grace in order to free us from our attachments, our desires for all these things. So actually, through all the suffering we undergo, that suffering is a necessary part of the process of grace to make us understand this is samsara. There's no happiness to be found in this world. So long as we're looking, as we expect to get happiness from this world, and we see instead of getting the happiness we hope to get, we experience a lot of misery along the way. Even if we get some of the pleasures we want, pleasures are all, I mean, it's always accompanied by pains also. So so long as we are very attached to this world, we will feel all the suffering and the evil in this world is very bad. But as the mind gets more and more mature, we come to see that all these difficulties that we face are also part of the process of grace to free our mind from its attachment to all these things. Ultimately, that's why ultimately we need to come to see what Bhagavan says in the 13th paragraph of Nana. There is one Parameshwara Shakti, one supreme divine power that is driving all of this. We need to accept that and understand all these. It's our vasanas, our likes and dislikes that make us decide this is good, that is bad. But neither the good nor the bad could be happening but by the consent of that divine power. So we need to see the good even in the bad. The bad is there to free us from our desire for all these things, because true happiness can never be achieved from the world. Bhagavan doesn't cheat us by giving us worldly pleasures. His aim is to free us from the desire for all these things, because that desire for all these things is what is keeping us bound. So the real happiness lies only in knowing and being what we actually are. So that is the aim of grace.
Well, so be it. Thank you.
Right. There was also a question, Michael Fenton had asked a question, which I think wasn't directly related to the verse, but I think it had some bearing on the verse.
So my question was, like, because you mentioned before that the way we get past this is to destroy the mind. And I wanted to know what the technique is to destroy the mind. I would assume it's through the self-investigation that we see what the mind truly is.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes. That is what What the mind, as Bhagavan says in verse 18 of Upadesha uh, he begins by saying enangale manam, thoughts alone are the mind. So that's a very broad definition of mind. The totality of all thoughts, all mental phenomena, they make up the mind. But of all these thoughts, the root is the first thought I, namely ego. So what the mind essentially is ego. So what is ego? Ego is a false awareness of ourself. That is, as ego, we are always aware of ourselves as I am this body. This body is not what we actually are, so the awareness I am this body is a false awareness. A false awareness can be removed only by correct awareness. If you see a rope and mistake it to be a snake, the snake is a misperception of a wrong perception. We are seeing it as something other than what it actually is. So the way to get rid of the snake is to see, but what seemed to be a snake is actually only a rope. Likewise, what now seems to be this person that we take ourselves to be, this body and mind, this whole bundle of five sheaves, what is it? What is the reality of that I that is now aware of itself as I am this body, I am this person, I am this Michael or that Michael, whichever Michael. So what is that I? If we investigate what that I is and know it as it actually is, then, as he said in the previous verse, verse 17, if one investigates the form of the mind, that is what the mind essentially is, if we investigate that without forgetting, that is, if we very vigilantly attend to what we actually are, it'll be monumentum ondule. It'll be clear there's no such thing as mind at all. This is the direct path. So the only way to eradicate the mind or ego is to know ourselves as we actually are. And in order to know ourselves as we actually are, we need to investigate ourselves. We seem to be this body and mind, this person, so long as we're attending to other things. But if we turn our attention back towards ourselves, is there any such thing as mind or ego to be found? We seem to be ego only so long as we're attending to other things. If we attend to ourselves, there is no such thing as ego or mind to be found. So it's only by self-investigation that we can know what we actually are. But didn't Bhagavan say we can also know by surrender? Yes, but how to surrender this ego other than by self-investigation? So surrender is very important, but the culmination of surrender is brought about by self-investigation. Because we can't give up ego in any way other than by knowing ourselves as we actually are.
Michael, can I ask a question with regards to this too? When sitting in practice, when doing self-investigation, there comes clarity. You can see there is nothing but thought. You can see that thought creates the entire world, the whole thing. But that's fine when you're sitting and practicing. But when you're out in the world, let's say you're driving your car and then somebody cuts you off and then you get angry and stuff like that. How do you stay with that knowledge all the time, like throughout the day, like how Bhagavan did? Like he was always there no matter what was happening.
Bhagavan sometimes said it's all a matter of attention. So long as we attend to the external world, ego rises and becomes strong. And when ego is strong, then it gets annoyed when someone else does something they shouldn't do, and all these things. The way to Bhagavan has given us a very, very simple technique, not even a technique, a very simple trick to curb the rising of mind or ego. All we have to do is to attend to it. That is why he said, Tedinal autem pidicum. If we search, if we look for it, it runs away. That's the words he uses in verse 25 of Ulunapadu. If sought, it takes flight. That is, if we look for what is this ego, what is this mind, there's no such thing. So to the extent to which we keep our attention on ourselves, we thereby curb the rising of ego. To the extent to which we allow our attention to go outwards and get carried away by our vasanas and by the appearance of all these things. I mean, we're carried away because of we're carried away by our vasanas. Ego will rise and play all its mischief. So if we really want to surrender ourselves, if we really want to curb our rising as mind, all we have to do is to keep our attention on ourselves. To the extent to which we keep our attention on ourselves, to that extent do we curb the rising of mind.
Thank you, Michael.
But that requires all-consuming love. Why we all are constantly failing in this, constantly getting carried away by all these external, well, we're not really carried away by the external thing. We're carried away by our vasanas, our inclination to attend to all these external things, our inclination to take all these things as very real and very important. And so long as we are much interested in the world, we attend to it. So we've got to wean our mind off its interest in the world and take great interest in. We need to be so curious, so passionately intent upon knowing what we actually are. Someone asked a thing has popped up, how to abide in the self all the time. Exactly the same thing. Abiding in the self means not rising as ego. The way to avoid rising as ego is to attend to ourselves. Bhagavan puts this very, very clearly in verse 27 of Uladunapadu. What he says in verse 27 is, Nanudiada ulanile, namaduvai ulanile. The state in which I is without rising is the state in which we are as that. That is, we are always, that means Brahman. We are always Brahman, but we're not aware of ourselves as Brahman so long as we rise as ego. So the state in which we don't rise as ego, the state in which we just are without rising, the state, in other words, the state of being, that is the state in which we are that. So how to remain without rising as I? He answered that in the next sentence, which is a rhetorical question. Without investigating the place where I rises, how to reach the annihilation of oneself in which I does not rise? From this sentence, first thing we can understand, when he talks about the state in which I is without rising, he's not talking just about a temporary state of not rising as I. Sleep is such a state. But the problem with sleep, it's temporary. We rise again. So that's not the state he's referring to. The state he's referring to is what he calls as tanirape, the annihilation of oneself. So it's only in that state in which ego is destroyed, but it never rises again. So how to attain that state without investigating the place where I rises? What does he mean by the place where I rises? That is, the I that rises is ego. The place from which I rises is our being, the pure I. That is, the rising I rises from the being I. That is, when we don't rise as ego, as, for example, in sleep, we remain as mere being. So it's from our being that we rise as ego. So what he refers to as nan udicum tanum, the place where I rises, obviously he's not using the word place in a literal sense. He's using it in a metaphorical sense. The place where I rises is our being. So in order to be without rising as I, we need to investigate our being. Investigating our being means attending to our being. So to the extent to which we attend to our being, we thereby subside and be as we actually are, remain as we actually are. Is that a clear answer to your question?
Yeah, Michael, that's pretty clear. I guess I'll tell you what I kind of get from that is that I should be practicing all the time, basically, right?
When Bhagavan gives a definition of Atma-vichara in the 16th paragraph of Nana, he says, Sadakalamum manate atma-vil vetirupchutan Atma-vichara mendrupaya. That means the name Atma-vichara is only for always keeping the mind on oneself. The very first word of that verse is sadakalamum, which is a very strong way of saying always. So none of us are achieving that yet. None of us are keeping our attention on ourselves always, but that is what we are trying to achieve. That's what we should we should aim to achieve. And in the 11th paragraph, he says, Oruvantan sarupam deyam variyal nirantara swarupa smaranaye kai patruvanayan adu andre podam. That means until one attains swarupa, if one holds on to nirantara swarupa smarana, nirantara means unbroken, uninterrupted, swarupa smarana, self-remembrance, remembrance of what we actually are. That in effect means self-attentiveness. So if we hold on to uninterrupted self-attentiveness, that alone is sufficient. So that may not be what we may not be able to do that now, but that is what we should be working towards. How to gain the love, the strength to hold on to self-attentiveness uninterruptedly, only by practice. That's why in the 6th paragraph of Nana, after saying, what's it matter how many thoughts rise? As and when each thought arises, it's necessary to investigate to whom they arise. If we vigilantly investigate to whom, it'll be clear to me. If we investigate, so when he talks about investigating to whom, he means turning our attention away from whatever appears back towards ourselves, the one to whom it appears. And then having turned our attention back, we need to hold on to that self-attentiveness. That's what he refers to when he says, if one investigates who am I, the mind will return to its birthplace and the thought that had risen will subside. When he says if one investigates who am I, what he means is having turned our attention away from whatever has appeared back towards ourselves, we need to hold on to that self-attentiveness. And by that, the mind will return to its birthplace, that is the place from which it's risen. In other words, it's our own being. And the thought that had risen will subside. The reason it will subside is because we're no longer attending to it. Thoughts cannot exist without our attending to them. And then he says, Ipadi paraka paraka, by practicing and practicing in this way, manatiku tan pirapiditil tangi nikam shakti adikadikindridu. The power of, for the mind, the power to remain in its birthplace will increase. That power to remain in its birthplace is the power of love. That love is cultivated by practice. So practice is absolutely essential. We can't complain, but we're not able to hold on to self-attentiveness if we haven't practiced it, we have to try again. Doesn't matter how many times we fail. So long as we're trying, we're moving in the right direction. So we shouldn't be disheartened by the number of times we fail to follow what Bhagavan has taught us. We need to just keep on trying. And we will certainly succeed, because by trying, that's how we gain the strength to remain in our birthplace, in the place from which we've risen. So practice is absolutely essential.
Thank you, Michael.
So, Michael, we got quite a few questions in the chat, but we still
Okay.
have your email questions to deal with.
Okay.
So I'll start off with those two, shall I?
Oh, yes, okay.
So, Namaskaram, Michael. My question: how do we effectively use Ekajivavada to help turn inward? Here is my understanding. Could you kindly confirm if this is correct? Ekajivavada is yet another prakriya among many and is not the ultimate truth. Therefore, we have to be careful not to stretch it beyond its limits. For example, one implication would be that no one, including Bhagavan, has ever successfully destroyed the ego. If that were true, the universe would have ended and none of us would be here. This would mean that annihilating the ego is a task I face without any precedent, something that has never been done before. Such a conclusion is discouraging, as it makes the task seem monumental and unprecedented. The problem with this kind of conclusion is that it stretches the prakriya beyond its limits. Ekajivavada ends at the point of all others we see as simply characters in a dream, so there's no need to worry, just turn inward. Any question beyond that is not meaningful to ask, because truly speaking, there's no jiva, no even one. Is my understanding right? Thank you.
Okay. Firstly, for those who may not be familiar with the terms, Ekajivavada is the contention or the teaching that there's just one jiva, one ego. And this is one of Bhagavan's teachings. Ekajivavada is not a prakriya. Prakriya means prakriya are various lines of analysis, various ways of analyzing our experience in order to distinguish ourselves from everything that we now take ourselves to be. Examples of prakriyas are things like drik, drisya, viveka, distinguishing the seer from the seen, the knower from the known. Now we take ourselves to be a person consisting of body and mind, or consisting of 5 sheaves. This is what we experience ourselves as. But we analyze that all these things, this body and mind, these 5 sheaves, are objects known by us. So the knower, there's a difference between the knower and the known, the subject and the object. So we are not any object, we are the subject. So by Dritrisya Viveka, we isolate ourselves. By conceptual analysis, we recognize that we are not anything that is known. We have the awareness that knows all these things. So this is one way of understanding that we are not anything, we're not any phenomenon, we are the knower of all phenomena. Another prakriya is analyzing the 3 states. That also helps us to understand that this body and mind that we now take ourselves to be is not what we actually are. Another prakriya is to distinguish what is permanent from what is impermanent, what is the eternal from the ephemeral. This is what is called nitya and nitya vastu viveka, distinguishing what is permanent from what is impermanent. Everything in our experience is impermanent. There's nothing that we experience permanently except our own being. The one thing that shines in all three states is this fundamental awareness I am. Everything else appears and disappears. Everything that we now take ourselves to be, all this body and mind, all these things, these appear in waking and dream, they disappear in sleep. But we don't disappear in sleep. We continue to be in sleep, and we exist and shine in sleep. That is, we exist in sleep, and we're aware of our existence. We're aware of our being in sleep. We're not aware of anything else, but we are aware of our being. So these, and another prakriya is distinguishing the changing from the unchanging. Everything is changing. The one thing that is unchanging is ourself, our own being. So all these are ways to help us understand conceptually the difference between what we seem to be and what we actually are. These prakriyas are necessary precursors or prerequisites for self-investigation. Because if we haven't distinguished ourselves from all these phenomena, when we're asked to investigate ourselves, we'll be investigating something other than what we actually are. So we need to understand we are not anything other than this fundamental awareness of being, I am. So the prakriyas help us in that. Ekajivavada is not a prakriya. To understand Ekajivavada, we need to understand it in context. Ekajivavada is a natural corollary of Drishti Shrishti Vada. Drishti Shrishti Vada is the teaching that perception alone is the cause of creation. Drishti means seeing or perceiving, and Shrishti means creation. In a dream is a classic example for this. In a dream, we experience a world full of so many people and so many events happening, so many things are happening. None of these things exist independent of our perception of it. It's not that there's a dream world and we come into that dream world and experience it. The dream world seems to exist only because of our seeing it. So it is created by our act of dreaming, by our act of experiencing it. So when Bhagavan talks about Drishti Shrishti Vada, the classic illustration and the classic evidence for Drishti Shrishti Vada is dream. That is, there's nothing that we experience in this waking state that we could not equally well experience in dream. Therefore, we have no evidence that our present state is anything but a dream. Therefore, the simplest explanation for all this multiplicity is this is all a dream. If we are willing to accept that, in a dream, how many dreamers are there? Obviously, there's only one dreamer. In a dream, we see many people. Because we, the dreamer, take ourselves to be a person in the dream, it seems to us that every other person is an experiencer of the world just like we are. Actually, none of the people in a dream are real. Not only the other people, towards the end, this person asked, all others we see are simply characters in a dream. No, not only all the others we see, even the person we take ourselves to be is a character in our dream. So the other people are no less real or more real than the person we take ourselves to be. This is the difference between Ekajivavada and people's Ekajivavada is in a certain sense a form of solipsism. Solipsism means the view that there's only one experiencer. But generally, solipsism is understood as only one person matters. So that's not what Ekajivavada is saying. Ekajivavada is saying none of the people in the dream are real, not even the person we take ourselves to be. So long as we take ourselves to be a person, we haven't understood Ekajivavada. We first need to understand that though we seem to be a person, we are not this person we take ourselves to be. Because we seem to be a person, every other person seems to be an ego just like us. So long as we're looking outwards, there seem to be a multiplicity of egos, a multiplicity of jivas. But all this multiplicity of jivas appears in whose view? In the view of the one jiva who sees them all. In dream, there seem to be many jivas. So many other people. If you say something unkind to someone in a dream, they'll be hurt. We can. I mean, it seems to be just like this waking state. So we obviously, just like in the waking state, we try to avoid being unkind to people. In dream also, we naturally, if you're a kind person, you'll naturally be kind whether you're in waking or dream. So it doesn't. Ekajivavada can be, if it's not understood correctly, it can lead to a rather selfish outlook on life. But that is not what is meant by that's not what Ekajivavada is teaching at all. So long as we're looking outwards, there seem to be many jivas, and we need to behave as if there are many jivas, because the others we see are no less important than the one we take ourselves to be. So we should kindness, consideration for others is absolutely necessary. Bhagavan exemplified that very clearly. But so why are we taught Ekajivavada? Because Ekajivavada is an integral part of Drishti Shrishti Vada. Why are we taught Drishti Shrishti Vada? Not to change our behavior in the world, to change our outlook on the world, to recognize that this world seems to exist, this world with all its joys and sorrows, with all the wars and the famines and all the good, bad things and all the good things, everything, it seems to exist because we've risen as ego. And we see, when we rise as ego, we see ourselves as a person, and this person is just one among so many billions of people. Not only human people, also people in the form of dogs and cats and cows and elephants and whales and dolphins and fish and everything. They're all these, there's a multiplicity of jivas, or there's the appearance of a multiplicity of jivas, so long as we look outwards. Ekajivavada is not intended to change our behavior in the world. If we understand Ekajivavada correctly, all this multiplicity, with all the multiplicity of egos we see in this world, all exist in whose view? In the view of ourselves. So who is this I in whose view all these many seem to exist? There seem to be many eyes, but who is the one I in whose view these many eyes seem to exist? So the aim of Ekajivavada is to turn our attention within. There's a verse in Guru Vācaka Kōvai, I can't remember now what the verse number is, but in that Bhagavan says, for those who have great courage, let them accept that Jiva is only one, and therefore turn within to investigate who is that one Jiva. Only for others is it said that Jivas are many. So for this Ekajivavada is not something, we are taught this for our own benefit. Bhagavan has taught us Ekajivavada for our own benefit, to encourage us to investigate who is this I in whose view all this whole world exists. That is, if we open the internet or the television or any newspaper or anything nowadays, we hear so much about so many wars are happening, so many problems, so many natural calamities, storms and so on. People are suffering in so many ways, earthquakes, so many things are happening. But all these things seem to happen only when we identify ourselves as a body. So who is this I who is now aware of itself as I am this person, and who is consequently experiencing all this? So the whole aim of Ekajivavada is to turn our attention within. So how do we effectively apply Ekajivavada? Only by turning within. So long as we're looking outwards, we accept the appearance of a multiplicity of jivas. So Ekajivavada is not denying the appearance of many jivas, but it is saying it's all an appearance. To whom does it all appear? Who is this I who sees this world full of so many other eyes? That is the whole aim of it. So we shouldn't, so long as we're looking outwards, so long as we're interacting in the world, we have to behave in accordance with the appearance, because who is behaving in the world? It's the person we take ourselves to be. So long as we take ourselves to be a person in this world, we need to be kind, considerate, compassionate towards all other people, whether in human form or in any sentient being. We need to be kind and considerate towards them. But all this multitude of sentient beings exist in whose view? It exists in the view of this I that is now aware of itself as I am this body. So who is this I? We need to turn our attention back within. That's the whole point of Ekajivavada. If we turn our attention back within, we will find even this one jiva, in whose view so many jivas seem to exist, even this one jiva doesn't actually exist. That is, we seem to be ego or jiva only so long as we're looking outwards. If we look within and see what we actually are, we will know that we have never been ego or jiva. We have only been the pure Sat-Chit that we always are. That is why the ultimate truth is not Ekajivavada. It's not Drishti Shrishtivada. The ultimate truth is Ajata. Then there's no creation whatsoever. Nothing has ever appeared. Because how can anything appear without appearing to something? The something to which all things appear is ego, which is why Bhagavan says, for example, in verse 26 of Uluttanaptu, if ego comes into being, everything comes into being. If ego is not, everything is not. Ego itself is everything. That this whole world is nothing but an expansion of ego, a projection of ego. But if we investigate what this ego is, ego will be found to be non-existent. And when ego is found to be non-existent, everything is non-existent. So what then remains is what exists and shines eternally as I am. That alone is what is real. As Bhagavan says, Yathatamai Uladu Atma-swarupa Mandre, in the 7th paragraph of Nana, what actually exists is only Atma-swarupa. So when we experience that we alone are, one without a second, Ekkameva Advaitiyam, as said in the Upanishads, that state is the state of Ajata, in which it's clear that nothing has ever appeared, because even the one to whom everything now seems to appear, even that one has never actually appeared. So the ultimate truth is Ajata. But as Bhagavan said, Ajata is not a teaching, because Ajata says there's no problem at all. There's no one to teach, there's nothing to be taught, there's no one to teach. There's only What is alone is as it is without undergoing any change whatsoever. So, but though Ajata is the ultimate truth, it's not suitable as a teaching. So the teaching level, the most useful teaching is uh, Drishti Shrishti Vada. Yes, that is, Drishti Shrishti Vada accepts the appearance of all this multiplicity, but says, to whom does it all appear? It appears to this one eye. Who is that one eye to whom all these things appear? If we investigate that, we will find that one eye, that eye to whom everything appeared will dissolve, and the one underlying eye, the real eye, the adhara, the basis, the ground, that alone will remain. And that is Satchidananda. As Bhagavan says in verse 28 of Upadeshundya, when one knows what the real nature of oneself is, then Anadi, Ananta, Akanda, Satchidananda. That is, what will remain when we know ourselves is only beginningless, endless, infinite, undivided Satchidananda, being, awareness, happiness. That is what we actually are. And that alone is what actually exists. I don't know if the person...
Yeah, I mean,
is that
I
a
can
clear
unmute.
answer?
Yeah, it's a very good clear answer. But the one I have two parts to my question. The first part is very clear. How do you apply Ekajivavada?
Like you apply, can I just say one thing? You apply
Yes.
it like you apply all of Bhagavan's teaching. There's only one way of applying any teaching of Bhagavan. Turn within. See who am I.
Right. The second part of the question is, if you start over analyzing this teaching, then it has some implications, like the one I gave in my question. I mean, I don't know if that was clear.
Yeah, I understand. Yes, yes. Bhagavan has given an answer for that also.
Right. So I guess what I'm taking from this is those are not important. Don't ask those kind of questions because they're not they're not useful, and so that'd be stretching the limits of the teaching.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That is, if we need to be very careful with philosophy. Bhagavan has taught a very deep philosophy, but it's a very focused philosophy. It's a philosophy focused on knowing what we actually are. If we allow the mind to begin thinking other things, there's no end to philosophy. You can fill many libraries. You can fill the whole internet with books on philosophy. But philosophy is useful to the extent to which it makes us understand, but what needs to be known is who am I, and the way to know it is to investigate who am I. That is the sole benefit, well, the sole ultimate benefit to gain from philosophy. So all Bhagavan's philosophy is focused only on that. Regarding the question itself, if all this is just a dream, and if it's a dream and I'm the dreamer, then what about Bhagavan? Is Bhagavan also just a product of my dreaming mind? Bhagavan has an answer for that. The outward form of the Guru is a part of this dream, like all other forms. But what is shining through the outward form of Guru is our own Swarupa. It's our own reality. So that's why he often used to say, God, Guru, and Self are one and the same. That is, it is. So though the form of Bhagavan is a part of this dream, what is shining through that form is the ultimate reality, our own reality. And so that what is shining through that form has the power to wake us up. For this, Bhagavan used an analogy. It's also used in at least one ancient Tamil text in Orivilodicum. That is what Bhagavan said is, just like the lion that appears in an elephant's dream. The belief is that elephants are not afraid of anything except lions. So if an elephant is dreaming and it dreams of a lion, the shock of fear will cause the elephant to wake up. The lion that was seen by the elephant is unreal, but it brings about a real awakening. Likewise, the name and form of Guru is unreal, but it brings about the real awakening. So Bhagavan has appeared in this form, and it not just the physical form. There's also a life story of Bhagavan. Bhagavan, at the age of, he was a young boy called Venkataraman. At the age of 16, he got a fear of death, and he turned his mind inwards, and he realized what he actually is, and ego was thereby annihilated. All this story, it's all part of the same thing to wake us up, to make us understand. If we want to attain that state that Bhagavan, that this boy Venkataraman thereby attained, it seems to us it's an attainment, where actually nothing is attained. That is, everything unreal is removed, and what is always there alone remains. But it seems to us that Bhagavan has attained something that we are yet to attain. We have to follow what Bhagavan has taught us, which is to do what he did, which is to turn our mind within and find out what we actually are. When we know what we actually are, we will know that we've always been that. It's not something new we've acquired. It is what was always there. But so long as we rose as ego, it seemed to us as ego that we didn't know ourselves as we actually are. Whereas what we actually are always knew itself as it actually is. So all these, there's an answer to all these things. But the main point is, when Bhagavan gives us teachings, we need to focus on what is the purpose of the teaching. We can go on elaborating and speculating and developing more and more philosophies. It's not useful. See, in the name of Advaita philosophy, so many books have been written, so many ideas are there. Bhagavan cut through a lot of that, went to the very heart of Advaita. That's why Bhagavan's teachings, if we study Bhagavan's teaching, there's no need to study any Upanishads or Bhagavad Gita or Brahma Sutra or any commentaries or any of these things, because the essence of all these things has been distilled by Bhagavan in the form of his teachings. So he's given us the practical heart of all of Vedanta has been compacted by Bhagavan into his own very simple teachings. That's all we need to study, understand, and put into practice, without allowing our mind to go here and there, thinking about this and that, comparing with this philosophy, that philosophy, trying to draw out what is the implication. If I'm the only jiva, then does that mean I'm the only one who, no ego has ever been destroyed till now? Let's not allow the mind to go in that direction. That's not the purpose of this teaching. The purpose of this teaching is who is this I, to whom all these concerns arise? Turn within and know yourself. That's the whole point of all of Bhagavan's teachings. Is that a satisfactory answer?
Absolutely. Thank you, Michael. Really
Right.
appreciate it.
Okay, shall I move on to the next email?
Yes.
Which the heading of this is despair. I've been following Bhagavan's teachings for a few years and have come to the point which feels unbearable. I'm experiencing extreme vexation and fear, realizing that my life has never happened, that it is all mental, and yet there are people around me who I care about, and their presence is so real as it has always been. My mum is declining. How can I accept this? When somebody dies, it is for them as if they never existed. The pain stays with us. I know that each of us is totally alone. Relationships are finite and illusory because they pass, but I am unable to accept this. I've never been able to accept that all is impermanent. I've turned to Bhagavan for support, but I am thorn. I don't know. I am incapable of turning within deep enough because my mind projects future suffering and constantly attracts me with a whirlpool of thoughts about the past and goes into extreme abstraction. My attention goes out to take care of my mum, and I realize that whatever I do it for the first time. What was is empty. Memory is a curse. I realize that I cannot escape now, which is me, and this is terrifying. I consider suicide, although, as you say, it doesn't help. I cannot accept that all this effort we undertake in our life is meaningless. Why should we even eat, wash, whatever? It seems to me that Bhagavan's path is beyond human capability. We are already born with attachments which we didn't ask for. And God loves us as himself, but there are no us. God is us, God is our real nature, but somehow it kills us all the way. Thank you, dear Michael, for your attention, and if you find time to respond.
That is, so long as we rise as ego, we experience ourselves as a person in the world full of so many other people. We have relationships, and we have our parents, we have our husband or wife, we have our children, we have our friends, we have our work colleagues. So many different types of relationship are there. All these seem very real so long as we experience ourselves as I in this body. So long as we're dreaming, the dream seems very real because so long as we experience ourselves as a body in the dream, that body seems to us to be real. And because what is actually real is only ourself. When we experience a body as ourself, the body seems to us to be real. And the body is a small part of the vast dream universe, so the whole dream universe seems to be real. As soon as we wake up from a dream, our identification with that dream body is severed, and what a moment before seemed to be real is suddenly recognized to be all just a dream. So long as we allow our mind to go outwards, we experience this world as if it were real. So we have to accept our lot. So long as we continue to rise as ego, it's inevitable that we will experience a world, we will experience relationships, we'll have our loved ones, and whether we are willing to accept it or not, everything is impermanent. Even if we're totally materialistic, we have to accept everything is impermanent. So there's no escaping the conclusion that everything is impermanent. But whereas the materialists think only the impermanent things exist, the difference is when we follow Bhagavan's path, we recognize there is one thing that is permanent, and that is our own being. And our own being is the being of all our loved ones. It's not that there are not many, because we look outwards, we see a multiplicity of beings, but actually being is one. Being is what is shining within us as I am. And so long as we take ourselves to be a person, we take every other person. It seems to us that the same, that I am is shiny in every other person. So long as we are in this world, taking this body to be I, we have relationships, we have to care for those we love, and we will be pained when they pass away, though for them it'll be a great relief because they're free of the body, as Bhagavan said. But for us it'll be a great tragedy when those who are very dear to us pass away. But this is the nature of life. We're all going to pass away one day. I mean, so if we take ourselves to the body, this body is going to pass away. That is certain. As Krishna said in Gita, in chapter 2 of Gita, it is certain that those who are born will die, and those who die will be born. So long as we rise as ego, we take ourselves to be a body, so it seems that we've been born at a few years ago, and a few years hence we're going to pass away. All this is inevitable. But death is not the end, because when we cease to experience ourselves as this body, so long as the dreamer remains, the dreaming will continue. So now we experience ourselves as one person, then we'll experience ourselves as another person, then another person, then another person. So all this it's all a passing show. So long as we are engaging in the world, all these things seem to be real. This is why it's called Vivaharika Satya. Vivaharika means interactive or transactional reality. It all seems to be very real. So we have to behave in this world as we would naturally behave, as if all of this is real. We care for those we love. We do all we can to make things comfortable for them, and death comes to all of us. So if one of our parents or any other person is nearing their end, we do all we can to make the final stages of their journey in this present body. We try to make it comfortable. We try to make the passing we try to ease the ending of their life, and we care for them everything. And when they pass away, we naturally feel sorrow. This is all part of the experience of rising as ego and taking ourselves to be a person. These are all inevitable. We shouldn't be dejected by these things. What Bhagavan's teaching has given us is the assurance that though all these things are just a passing show, though none of these things will last, there's one thing that is permanent, one thing that endures, and that is the fundamental awareness of being, I am. That is what is real. And that is when we love another person, it's because that same I am is shining in that other person. The same I am that is shining in us is also shining in that other person. And because we recognize that, we feel love for them and we care for them and everything. And so long as we look outwards, we have to experience all the joys and sorrows of life. This is inevitable, but all these joys and sorrows, they're all impermanent, they're all going to pass. Another set of joys and sorrows, well, it'll all continue coming so long as we continue to rise as ego. So Bhagavan has shown us the way out. The way out is to hold on to that which alone is permanent, namely our own being. So even in the midst of caring for those we love and all these things, we can, in the background, so to speak, we can be holding on to at least a certain degree of self-attentiveness. So we need to be very, we need to be calm, unperturbed by all the ups and downs of life. If we allow ourselves to get shaken, of course we're all shaken to a greater or lesser extent by the ups and downs of life, but the more we can hold on to that self-attentiveness, the more we can accept that whatever is happening by the will of Bhagavan, and whatever happens by the will of Bhagavan is for the good of all concerned, the more we can maintain an inner equipoise in the midst of all this. But what the crucial thing is, trying our best to hold on to self-attentiveness and not be perturbed by all the joys and sorrows that life inevitably will bring to us. We all undergo joys and sorrows. It's inevitable so long as we take the body to be I. We just need to try slowly to separate ourselves from all these things by holding on to to our own being. This doesn't mean that we are uncaring about others. So long as we experience it, that is, the more we follow Bhagavan's path, the more we cling to our own being, the more we subside. And the more we subside, the more our selfishness and narrow view will subside. So we will naturally be caring and compassionate and kind. It'll come to us naturally to the extent to which we follow Bhagavan's path and thereby subside. So there's nothing to be dejected about. Ultimately, we're all going to, yes, despair is a part of life, but even we shouldn't let this despair overpower us, because despair is also a passing phenomenon. It's not going to last. Sometimes we feel a bit more cheerful, sometimes we feel a bit more dejected. This is just the oscillating nature of the mind. This is all inevitable, but we shouldn't give in to despair. Yes, sometimes feelings of despair will arise. Let's not give in to them. Let's hold on to what is real, namely, for whom are these feelings of despair? That is what we need to investigate. So we need to turn our attention back towards ourselves, the one to whom this despair appears. So in that way, we separate ourselves from the feelings of despair. It's important to understand that the whole world, the power that is driving this whole world is the power of grace. Ultimately, what exists is only good. So we shouldn't give, though when we look at the world, we've got plenty of reason to despair when we see the wars and the calamities that are happening and all the terrible things that people are doing in this world. We've got plenty of reason to despair, but we need to understand that behind all this, there's the infinite power of love that is Bhagavan. And that power of love is what is driving all these things. Even if it's not clear to us now, we need to trust in that power of love. And that power of love is what is shining in the heart of each and every one of us as our own being. So let us hold on to that and not give in to despair, not allow ourselves to be overpowered by despair.
In fact, all these things remind us that we can only turn within. It's a sort of constant reminder.
So long as we look outwards, it's hell.
Michael, can I just share something?
Yes, certainly.
Thank you so much. Please correct me because, I'm not sure if this is right. But coming to the conclusion recently that, the only true beauty of this that we see around is just that everything that's happening is just to turn us within, which is something that you have been saying for forever.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's a lot of teachings that, for example, I was in the past that they were saying there's the magic of God everywhere. Look around, is beautiful, and I was sometimes confused on that part, and I will get trapped sometimes trying to mix, try to make it fit in both. Like I'm not this, but this is beautiful, and then I would have a cognitive dissonance because it will be like, no, it's not. It's not what it seems, right?
That is all these wars, all these bombs that people are dropping on each other. It's this beautiful. Beauty, as they say, is in the eye of the beholder. What makes something seem beautiful or ugly is according to our likes and dislikes. We consider war as bad. War is ugly. War brings out all the it's the cruelty of people who driving all these things. It all looks very bad. But why do we consider it bad? Because we don't like wars. We wouldn't like someone dropping bombs on our head. So when we see people dropping bombs on other people's head, we feel that that's bad. It's something we don't like. We feel sorry for those people who are so many innocent people are being killed and maimed and hurt and injured in all these unnecessary wars. But all these all these seem to us to be bad because we don't like these things. That's why we need to surrender our will to the will of God, to Bhagavan's will, because all these things, though, if God is really all-knowing, all-powerful, and all-loving, as we believe he is, then how can anything be actually bad? Even the things that seem to us to be bad, he is allowing them for a purpose. We may not understand the purpose, but it's all for a purpose. Everyone ultimately, they are doing their karmas and experiencing the fruit of their karmas. But it's not just aimlessly. This is being driven by that one Parameshwara Shakti, as Bhagavan said. It's driving all these things. So he's allowing these things to happen for the good of all concerned. It may not seem to be good, to us it seems to be very bad, but it's for their ultimate good. Because real happiness doesn't lie in anything in this world. Real happiness lies only in knowing what we actually are. So all these difficulties that we undergo, so long as we rise as ego and experience ourselves as I in this body, all these things, we are given these difficulties in order to help us to understand that happiness doesn't lie in this world. Happiness lies only within. So
And that is
everything
the
has a
beauty.
purpose.
And that's exactly the beauty of it, right? That's the real beauty of this that
Yeah,
we perceive is not what it is not what it seems,
yeah,
obviously,
yeah,
for all aspects, but
yeah,
the meaning of it is just to, like well, the ego, Angelica wanted to be Angelica, right? The ego. So now the beauty of this is that it's like trying to be like, go back,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
So that's the real beauty of this. But
yeah,
like, yeah, because I lost a lot of passion in many things and for a long time, and
yeah,
it just, yeah, it seems too auspicious right now,
yeah,
like, but not as for a special someone. It's just suspicious that the whole thing is meant to not work perfectly
yes,
because it's for a better
yes,
good,
yes,
right?
exactly.
Thank you.
There's some other questions. There's one, Margalit has a question quite high up in the chat actually. In Who Am I, paragraph 10, the last line is one will certainly be reformed, transformed from rising as ego to being as Swarupa. Is the actual meaning of the last line, one will certainly succeed in one's efforts? Thank you.
Yes, that is very, Bhagavan uses a term, Urupadavan, which means that's a term, if someone becomes a reformed character, someone who Uru means form. Urupadavan means they become form. It implies that is in the context in which Bhagavan implies it. He implies we will be saved. We will be transformed into what we actually are. That is, we need to go beyond the surface meaning of a word. The basic surface meaning will be reformed, but the deeper implication is we will become Swarupa. We'll become our real form, what we actually are.
Does that cover that, Margalit?
Thank you.
Yeah. Is that clear
Thanks,
what I
Master.
said?
Yes. Thank you.
Right.
Namo Ramana.
Yeah. More Ramana.
Next one is, Dear Michael, you just give to Bhagavan volitional aspect to free us, as well unveiling aspect of Maya. Does that mean that your personal view of Ramana teaching start to expand beyond the borders of Advaita, embracing Shaivism too?
Well, Bhagavan takes elements from here and there. Like Bhagavan said, for example, Bhagavan explained the Christian doctrine of original sin. He said the original sin is ego. That is, the sinner is the original sin. That doesn't mean Bhagavan is teaching Christianity. He takes elements from different traditions and he explains them in the light of his teaching. So these Panchakritiyas, this is a term Bhagavan refers to in Nana. He says the mutorial, that means the three functions, meaning creation, sustenance, or dissolution, or Panchakritiyas, all happen Isan Sanidana Visesha Matratal, by the mere special nature of the presence of God. So Bhagavan uses these terms. That doesn't mean Bhagavan is though that term comes from Shaiva Siddhanta, there are good things in Shaiva Siddhanta. So he takes what is good here, there, but he brings them all to, that is, we need to understand all these things in the light of his teaching. According to Bhagavan, there's actually no creation. And since there's no creation, there's no sustenance, no dissolution, there's nothing. There's just pure being. Ultimately, grace alone exists. But so long as we see all this multiplicity, there seems to be creation, there seems to be sustenance. So eventually it will all dissolve. So creation, sustenance, dissolution. All this happens under the veil of ignorance. So there's the Tirodhana, and all this veil of ignorance will be removed by grace. So it's perfectly, though it's a concept from Shaiva Siddhanta, it's perfectly in accord with Bhagavan's teachings. Though original sin is a concept from Christianity, Bhagavan puts it so it fits his teachings. We are born in original sin. Yes, because we rise as ego. So ego itself is the original sin. I hope that's an adequate answer to that question.
Bhagavan precedes, in that sense, the doctrines.
Yes.
Because it's more essential.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be, derivative of, but...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Bhagavan is the source of all these teachings.
Exactly.
But whatever truth is there in any religion, Bhagavan is the source of that truth. He is that truth.
So basically, are we saying that in a dream we have also the virus of the undreaming of the dream? So basically, it's a good news. Everybody will be saved by definition, and
yeah, everyone will be saved. Bhagavan makes that very, very clear in the final verse of Arunachal Ashtakam. Just like the waters that are evaporated from the ocean and become clouds and get poured down as rain, and it goes down through rivers and it gets stuck in dams and reservoirs and lakes, and then it gets evaporated, it goes round and round. Eventually it all has to go back to the ocean. And just like for the birds flying in the sky, so long as they're in the sky, there's no place of rest for them. Ultimately, they have to come back. The place of rest is only on this earth. Likewise, all jivas eventually have to go back to the source from which they arose. So yes, ultimately there's salvation for everyone.
but these 5 properties make Bhagavan playful, by the way. He's dreaming his own dream, and he's making
He's not dreaming. We are the dreamer.
Of course we, but seeing who we are,
He's the one who is regulating our dream.
So he has a volition, so he has a playful role in this. If he's
Bhagavan has only Bhagavan's volition. Bhagavan is the infinite ocean of love. In Bhagavan's view, there are no others. So what seem to us to be others, in Bhagavan's view, is himself. So he loves us all as himself. And that infinite love is what we experience as his grace, which is driving all of this. So when we say we have to surrender to the will of Bhagavan, his will is that we should be happy. And happiness lies in subsiding. So surrendering to the will of Bhagavan means subsiding back into our source, into our being, into the being that is Bhagavan himself.
yes, but first he tortures.
He doesn't torture us. Who is the cause of all this torture? We are torturing ourselves. By rising as ego, we are torturing ourselves. That is why Bhagavan gives emphasis more than the creation, sustenance, dissolution, veiling. Bhagavan is Guru. Guru is that is all these other functions of God. Creation is said to be a function of Brahma, sustenance Vishnu, dissolution Shiva. Bhagavan is Guru. Guru is the ultimate function of God, which is grace, removing all of this, putting an end to all of this. So Guru, that's why it said Guru is the ultimate form of God. So Bhagavan is God in the form of Guru. So his function is anugraha, grace, removing, saving us from our own self-created misery.
Longing is like a pun, you see, because it's prolonging the separation. So when we have longing for the divine, right, that's a manufactured desire from ego. So it's like a pun, longing, making
Yeah,
it
if we
longer,
take
the
it like that,
separation.
okay, we
Yeah,
can
yeah.
use some other word. We can use yearning. We
Yearning,
need to be yearning for that. But the God for whom we may be yearning is not something other than ourselves. It's our own being. That is what Bhagavan makes clear. So we need to turn back within and subside back in to the heart. That's all we need to understand.
There are various other comments, but no specific questions, except maybe Vasanta has actually specified a question. Is the mind and the ego one and the same? Any explanation?
Ego is what the mind essentially is, as Bhagavan says in verse 18 of Upadesha Undiyar. That is, we use the term mind in various different senses. So we often use the term mind for the totality of all thoughts. All thoughts make up the mind. But of all the thoughts, what is the one essential thought? That is, all other thoughts appear in the view of the first thought, ego. So ego is the root of all other thoughts. So what the mind essentially is only ego. So Bhagavan often uses the term mind as a synonym for ego. But we need to understand from the context in what sense the term mind is being used. When we talk of the mind as the seer or knower, that is only ego. But when we talk of the turmoil of the mind, for example, or the disturbance of the mind, that is all the other thoughts. Chupka has her hand raised.
No, Ramana.
Namo Ramana.
I have a question that since we are listening to you and the Ram Bhagwan reading, so we all know that what is real and what we should do. But many a time, when we see around us and the people who are in rich and we consider ourselves we are inferior, so we forget all the things and we want to achieve those things. Why it happens to us?
Once someone asked Bhagavan, when we read your teachings, we understand that there's no happiness in any of the things of the world, but our mind is still after them. Why is that? Bhagavan said, because you haven't yet had enough of it. We need to continue experiencing all these and suffering the consequences until we come to understand there's nothing to be gained from anything. There's nothing in this world from which we stand to gain anything. Everything we are seeking, the happiness, the fulfillment, the satisfaction, it's all within us. It is what we actually are. So ultimately, the only solution to all problems is to turn within. But that's not yet clear enough to us. Though we may repeat the words, though we may understand at a certain level in our mind, on the surface level, we understand it. Conceptually, we accept Bhagavan's teachings, we understand them conceptually. But deep down, we haven't yet got the conviction. Because our mind is still clouded by its vasanas. So the only way to get the conviction, to deepen the conviction, is to put into practice what Bhagavan has taught us. The more we hold on to self-attentiveness and thereby subside within, the less inclination we'll have to be drawn to the allurements of the world.
Thank you, Michael. One question also I have actually.
Yes.
It is personal question because since I started my spiritual journey, I was that time 20 or 22. So I used to read Bhagavad Gita a lot, but after that, when I came through some of the ISKCON's people, and I started chanting and those Krishna worship. But finally, I realized I had many questions to ask them why we are in this earth and why we are actually existing. So there was no answer.
Yeah.
So I started listening J Krishnamurti, and then also sometime. But finally, one day I came through your one of the YouTube channel, and I heard you, and then I read the book Who Am I? So I realized that finally I'm in the destination that from where I can leap over.
Yeah.
So, but I don't think that I'm always abiding with the thought, with the idea that I'm the one and the rest of the world is just fake, and still I am also fake. So, but I forget many a time why it happens to me.
Because we still have strong Vishaya vasanas. Vishaya vasanas are the inclination, the taste to experience Vishayas. We still think we can get happiness from this external world. Though we may understand, as I said, understand at a conceptual level that there's no happiness in this world, still, if we were really convinced that there's no happiness in this world, our mind wouldn't go out towards the world, but our mind keeps on going out. So that's why this practice is so necessary. Slowly, slowly, we need to wean our mind off its taste its inclination to go out into this world.
But the vasanas are also lingering with me. Sometimes I want to quit my bad, habits, but still they are coming in front of me, and
Yes, as Bhagavan
I'm
says,
compelling myself to do that.
in Tamil he says, Tondru Totu Varakindra Vishaya Vasanaigal. That means Vishaya Vasanas which come from time immemorial. We've cultivated these Vishaya Vasanas over so many crores of lifetimes, countless lifetimes. We've been cultivating these Vishaya Vasanas. we've now got to wean ourselves off these Vishaya vasanas. For example, if someone has been smoking for many years, and then they come to know that smoking is bad for their health, if they continue smoking, they're likely to die of cancer or something, then they have a liking to give up smoking. But giving up smoking is not so easy if you've been smoking for 40, 50 years. So slowly, just like a smoker has to wean him or herself off their inclination to smoke, the alcoholic has to wean themselves off their inclination to drink alcohol. We need to wean ourselves. We are as addicted as the smoker or the alcoholic. We are addicted to experiencing Vishayas. We've got to wean our mind off this. And the way to wean our mind off this is by the practice of self-attentiveness. We shouldn't expect immediate results. When we have been suffering from a disease, not just for one lifetime, for countless lifetimes, we shouldn't expect instant recovery. We have to go through all the therapy, all the medical treatment and everything. Medical treatment being Bhagavan's teachings, we need to, it's a process we need to go through to unravel all the vasanas in which we've got ourselves entangled.
Thank you, sir.
That's why abhyasa is so important. We need to practice and practice and practice. And we shouldn't be disheartened by our failure. The very fact that we are trying our feeble best to follow Bhagavan's teachings means we're moving in the right direction.
And moving in the right direction leads us to do things without getting the result. We do it for its own sake.
Also. Yes.
That's part of the process.
Yeah. This is the ultimate seva. What is the seva that God asks of us? It is to do this. It's there in the Bhagavad Gita also. Atma samstam manakritva na kinchitape chintayat. But how do we achieve that? Sanai, gradually.
Staying with the ego is like trying to cross a river on the back of a crocodile.
Yeah.
We have another question come up.
Yeah.
If the female is both Maya and grace, does it mean Bhagavan is also both Shakti and Shiva?
Yes.
Doesn't Bhagavan ultimately lead us back within as grace, which is said to be Shakti, female quality?
Yes, Bhagavan is both Shiva and Shakti. One of the very first songs that Sadhu Om sang on Bhagavan, he referred to him as Ammayappa, mother, father. So Bhagavan is the mother. We need to consider Bhagavan as both our mother and our father. And Arunachala is Ardhanarishwara, Ardhanarishwara is the form of Shiva in which he's half female, half Shiva, half Shakti. That is to represent the oneness of Shiva and Shakti. And the embodiment of that oneness of Shiva and Shakti is Arunachala. That is why it's the place where Shakti came and merged. So long as we rise as ego, the Shakti and Shakta, the power and the one whose power it is, seem to be two. Only when we subside back within, we find that Shiva and Shakti are one. Bhagavan and his power are not two different things. His power is he himself.
They're dependent on each other in a way. You can't have mother without father, and you can't have father without mother.
Yeah. But ultimately, the ultimate truth is mother and father are one.
Michael,
yes.
With regard
to that, when Ramana Maharshi would call out for Kali, for the Divine Mother, what is, if he's both Shiva and Shakti and the mother and the father, is it only in the appearance of ego that he would be calling out to?
Sorry, I didn't understand. I didn't quite catch what you're referring to.
It's said that Ramana Maharshi would have love for or call out for, or especially Ramakrishna, for Kali, for the Divine Mother.
Oh, yes, yes.
But if they are both the Divine Mother and the Divine Father, who are they calling out to? Just themselves, really?
Yes, that is, in whatever form we consider God, the reality of that God is our own self, our own swarupa.
But
if we read closely Arunachala Stuti Panchakam, 5 hymns Bhagavan has sung on Arunachala, he's clearly praying to an external form, but he's repeatedly saying that external form is what is that which appears in that external form is what is shining in the heart as I.
Okay, so it's not just that he's calling out to Kali from the perspective of ego, of us viewing him as incomplete.
Yes. Well, at the early stages of spiritual practice, God seems to us to be something separate from ourselves. But as we go deeper and deeper in the path of bhakti, the mind is purified, and we recognize that God is not something other than ourselves, but is our own being. That's why Bhagavan says in verse 8 of Upadesha Undiyar, rather than Anya Bhava, Ananya Bhava, in which he is I, is best among all. Anya Bhava means the attitude that is devotion to God as something other than ourselves. Better than that is to recognize that he is I. That God is nothing other than our own reality. And when we understand that God, whether we say he or she, doesn't matter, Kali or Shiva or whatever, or Vishnu or whoever, the reality of all these different names and forms of God is that which is shining in our heart as our own being, I am. When we understand that, then we need to turn our attention back within.
So Ramakrishna calling out to Kali, is that because it's more Dvaita than Advaita, or is it just the same?
No, what we had to learn from the life of Ramakrishna, he was by intense love for an external form of God. That external form will sooner or later turn you within. So what did Kali do? She brought Totapuri. And Totapuri wanted to teach something to Ramakrishna. He wasn't interested. But when Totapuri was insisting, he said, I'll have to go and ask my mother. And Totapuri thought, what sort of a grown man is this? He has to ask his mother. He didn't understand his mother. When Ramakrishna said his mother, he means Kali. So he went to Kali. And he said, Totapuri said he wants to teach me something. And Kali said, yes, I brought him here. You follow what do what he tells you to do. And then he listened to Totapuri, did what Totapuri did, and whether we don't know what state Totapuri was in, but somehow Totapuri acted as a catalyst to turn his mind within. We don't know exactly how it happened, but that was all by the grace of Kali. And who is that Kali? His own Swarupa, as he understood when he turned his mind within.
Didn't he say cut Kali with the sword of Yana?
Yeah, that is when Totapuri was teaching him to turn his mind within, and he complained, every time I try to turn my mind within, I see only the form of Kali. And Totapuri said, cut that form of Kali with the sword of Jnana. That means stop looking outward, no, stop limiting her to that form. See her as she actually is, as your own very being. We don't know exactly what Totapuri taught, but whatever he taught him, it was sufficient, because Ramakrishna was such a pakva soul at that time. He had, through his intense love for Kali, he had attained such a state of ripeness, of maturity, but it just took a little for his attention to be turned within.
So Bhagavan Ramana did or did not call out to the Divine Mother, to Kali. Was it more to Arunachala that Bhagavan looked or called out?
Yes, but all these different forms, they're all different forms of the one reality. And that one reality, the Swarupa of any form of God, the Swarupa of Krishna or Rama or Shiva or Vishnu or Kali or Durga or whatever, the one Swarupa of all gods, all different forms of God, is our own Swarupa.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
that is what the path of bhakti leads to, that eventual realization that the God we are worshipping is what is ever dwelling within us as our own being.
Thank you.
Right. As Krishna says in Gita, Aham Atma Gudakesha, I am the Atman in the heart of every sentient being. That means he's our own very self. He's what we actually are. And that's true of every name and form of God. Bhagavan says in Aranakshashtakam, to make yourself known, you appear in all the different religions, all the different mattas, all the different faith traditions, or whatever you call it. You appear in Vida Vida Vuruvai, in so many different forms, but it's the one reality that is appearing in all those forms. And that one reality is our own reality, our own very being. So the ultimate aim of all spiritual practices is to turn our attention back within.
So our samskaras actually lead us to the best place to receive the teachings.
Yeah, according to our stage of development and the particular vasanas we have, different paths. Why are there so many different spiritual paths? It's because not everyone is going to be attracted by the deepest teachings, such as the teachings of Bhagavan. So many other paths are given. But it's all eventually, they're all leading in the same direction.
By the way, the story of Totapuri continues. After enlightenment of Ramakrishna, Totapuri wanted to kill himself because he has a diarrhea, but he couldn't drown himself in the Ganges because it was summer and the Ganga was not deep enough. And then he started laughing, and this was the gift of Ramakrishna to Totapuri. So Totapuri had to accept the Kali's grace.
This
is part of the story. I just wanted to say it in order to be full.
That's why I say we don't really know what the state of Totapuri is, but he served a purpose. I think there's no doubt that Ramakrishna was far, far more spiritually developed than Totapuri. But Totapuri had the great good fortune to be brought there by Kali to act as a catalyst for the final the final act of Kali's grace. Kali acted through Totapuri to turn his attention within, to turn Ramakrishna's attention within.
But this basically shows how Advaita Vedanta and Shaivism can work together in peace, and the difference is not so big in the end.
Yeah, conceptually, Shaiva Siddhanta is, Kashmir Shaivism is very, very different to Advaita. It also claims to be Advaita, but they take this world and everything to be real. But ultimately, we shouldn't be too concerned about all these philosophies. What is most important is the practice, turning the attention within. So we need to go beyond all these philosophies to what is the essence of spirituality, which is ultimate aim of all spiritual paths. Whether the followers of those spiritual paths understand it or not, the ultimate aim is to turn your mind back within and thereby dissolve back into the source from which we rose. As Bhagavan says in verse 10 of Upadesh Undiyar, Udita idatil odungi iratil, adu karmamum yogamum undipara, adu jnanamum, adu bhaktium karmamum undipara, adu yogam jnanamum undipara. That means the being having subsided in the place from which we rose, that is karma and bhakti, that is yoga and jnana. So all paths ultimately are the culmination of all spiritual paths is the subsidence and dissolution of ego back into its own being, the source from which it rose.
That's the jump, going from the intellectual understanding to the practical result. That's the jump.
Yeah, that intellectual understanding is a means. It's not an end in itself. How much we intellectually understand this, it does very little good to us unless we actually put it into practice. But in order to put it into practice, that a clear understanding is very, very helpful.
But Michael, in your memories about Sadhu Om, paramount importance of self-attention, Sadhu Om there is saying that our problem is that we are not making good manana. In fact, if our manana is perfect, the nididhyasana will be in an instant. So basically, there he is pointing that if our intellect is keen enough and can take consequences of the teachings, it is all what we needed. And then nididhyasana will be in an instant.
Yeah. That is what he used to say. It's people think of Sravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana as if they're three different things. But if you do Sravana properly, that means you have to be very attentive to what is being said, and you have to understand what is being said. So the Sravana, true Sravana, will automatically lead to Manana. Manana is making sense of what is being said. And if we really understand, if we really go deep in the manana, what is the teachings all about? It's about knowing I. So how can we get a clear understanding? How can we really make sense of it all other than by turning our attention within? So it's actually, they're intimately connected to each other. True Sravana should lead to Manana, and true Manana should lead automatically to Nididhyasana. And they go hand in hand. It's not a matter of just, some people say, first you've got to do the Manana, then you've got to do first you've got to do the Sravana, then Manana, then Nididhyasana. It's not like that. It's an iterative process. As we go deeper in the practice, we're able to get more from the Sravana. We see more meaning in the same words. And the more meaning we see in them, the deeper we go in the manana, and that makes us go deeper in the nididhyasana. So it's an iterative process, and not just three distinct things. Each is feeding the other. But no amount of sravana manana is adequate without the nididhyasana. We haven't really done the manana properly if we haven't put it into practice. Because we can't understand these things just by... The conceptual understanding is necessary, but it's not adequate. So the correct conceptual understanding can be achieved only by turning the mind within.
In fact, most philosophies, they take you up to manana and they don't actually tell you the last bit.
Well, particularly in Advaita, this is a bit, I mean, in classical Advaita, they give so much emphasis on the sravana manana, and they don't really clarify what is the practice. That's what is special about Bhagavan's teachings, the emphasis he gave on the practice and clarifying what is the practice and how simple it is. It's simply a matter of turning our attention within.
Michael, can I just say that all the technical terms of Shravana and Manana and so on, it may be leaving some of the newcomers in the weeds. They might not understand.
Okay, yes. Okay, I'll just clarify for those who don't know. Sravana literally means hearing. But what it implies is taking in the teaching, absorbing the teaching. So studying, that is reading carefully, listening to the words, that is the sravana. So basically taking in the teaching is sravana. Manana means thinking deeply about it in order to make sense of it. So to really grasp not just the meaning of the word, but the implication of the word. So thinking really deeply about it is manana. Nididhyasana literally means deep contemplation. But what are we to contemplate on? We are to contemplate on our own being. So it's the practice of self-attentiveness is the nididhyasana. That is what is not clearly explained often in classical Advaita. What is the actual practice? It's there in all the texts. I mean, Krishna says it so clearly in the Gita. If you want to know what is the practice, in chapter 6, verse 25 of the Gita, Krishna says it so clearly. Gradually, bring the mind to calmness. Fix the mind on one. Atma-samstam manakritva. Make the mind fixed on yourself. Na kinchitape chinteya. Do not think of anything else whatsoever. That is the actual practice. But in order to understand what the practice is, we need to have done the sravana manana properly. And the deeper we go in the sravana manana, the deeper we'll be able to go in the practice. And the deeper we go in the practice, the deeper our sravana manana will become. So it's all, each is feeding into the other. To put it simply in English, we've got to study the teachings very carefully. We've got to think about them, make sense of them, understand them, and we've got to practice them. And the more we practice them, the more we will get out of studying them. And the deeper our thinking about them will become.
And thinking about them, we stop thinking about other things as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Bruce has put his hand up. Bruce?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'd like to read this. It's a question and then an answer by Bhagavan, and if you could maybe have some comments on it. So the question is, often even while the spurana is going on, thoughts appear and distract me. What should I do at such moments? And then Bhagavan replies, gently extricate yourself from the thoughts, that is all. The mental faculty is not destroyed whilst the state of spurana is in operation. It is in a state of suspension. Whenever it reasserts itself, look closely at the thought that caused such reemergence, and it will vanish. Steady, continuous practice is required until you have naturally become established in the spurana. That is, until you reach a state wherein no effort on your part is necessary any longer to keep up the spurana. Plunge the mind in the spurana again and again and again, and keep it submerged there until you find that the spurana is going on naturally and without any effort on your part. If there is a desire or a resolve within the mind, I am carrying on with the spurana because doing so will earn me liberation. Liberation will never dawn. The spurana should not be the result of any mental process. It should be natural, motiveless, spontaneous, and uncaused by anything. Only then will liberation dawn. Those who expect or anticipate or want liberation never find it. Abandon yourself to the spurana unconditionally, and it will liberate you.
Where does this come from?
This is from a book. It's called Aham Spurana, and it's
Okay. That is not Bhagavan. That is
yeah.
That
I
is
know what it is. Yeah.
It's a concoction.
Uh-huh.
Certain elements of that, it does correspond to what Bhagavan taught, but there are things there that don't sound like Bhagavan at all. What is Spurana? Spurana is simply the clarity of self-awareness that we achieve to the extent to which we are self-attentive. That is, if our attention is always going outwards, we're always aware I, but this I is mixed up so much with adjuncts, with limiting adjuncts, upadhis, that though we are always self-aware, but there's a lack of clarity of self-awareness, or lack of clarity of awareness of ourselves as we actually are. To the extent to which we are self-attentive, we thereby gain a greater clarity of self-awareness. That clarity is what is called spurana. There's not just one, that is, spurana is there are different degrees of spurana. The deeper we go in the practice, the more the spurana, the clearer our self-awareness will become. So it's not a separate thing. People think of, have you found spurana? Have you achieved spurana? It's just for, in a sense, it's, as Bhagavan says, it's always there. There's always to some extent, we are all clear about our own being. But to the extent to which we practice self-attentiveness, that clarity becomes deeper and deeper and deeper. That's all that is meant by spurana. It's that fresh clarity that we gain to the extent to which we go deep in the practice of self-attentiveness.